In the 1920s, the Ku Klux Klan became a powerful force in American politics. Colorado was no exception. By the mid-1920s, the state legislature, governor, and mayor of Denver were Klans members. They were also a social club of sorts for white Protestants throughout the Front Range. The Klan presented and promoted a return to Christian family values. That was their whole idea. They were also opposed to Catholics, to immigrants, and to black people. And that was really what drove that rise of the Klan during the 1920s. The white supremacism they championed was made visible by the frequent cross burnings they hosted at prominent hills throughout the Denver area. Some of these locations included Table Mountain east of Golden, the Westminster Castle, which was run by the Pillar of Fire Church and whose leader, Alma White, was an ardent supporter of the Klan, and a hill north of Broomfield. So here we are at this location north of Broomfield, north of the city. It's a hill where historically the Ku Klux Klan would burn crosses. And we learned this from the Broomfield History Archives. There was actually a network of high places throughout the surrounding area, Westminster, Golden, Denver, and then here at this very spot in Broomfield. An oral history from Miles Crawford in the Broomfield History Collection mentions that the Klan was strong in Broomfield during its heyday. While the Klan lost power in Colorado due to a number of scandals, the echoes of their terror and hate still ring through the years and remind us that Broomfield was not, and will never be, immune from the heinous effects of racism.
Really what you see here in Broomfield in terms of history of racism and segregation really is kind of in the housing market. You know, we talk a lot about redlining that happened a lot in the 60s, where it was if you were a certain color, mainly black, you weren't allowed to live in a certain area. For one reason or another, the housing market was just too expensive, or a certain family lived there so a black family couldn't, or they just didn't want black people there. You really see the lack of diversity. You see the lack of people of color in this part of town. You see it a lot down in Denver, Aurora, even some parts of Colorado Springs, but Broomfield is just really lacking. And I think what we kind of miss is that it's not in your face, right? It's nobody saying, hey, you're this color, you can't live here.
Broomfield Heights in the 1950s was a planned suburb. It was a planned community. And it really was very explicit that this was a planned community that was really only available to white people to move into. And that was built in through redlining, some of the practices of lending that happened at the time. It was virtually impossible for a black veteran, for example, to get a veteran's loan to buy a home in a place like Broomfield. And then also we see that the community continued to have conversations about race and about accepting or not accepting colored people, is what they called them at the time, colored people, into their community. And we see that by the 1960s, you have this debate going on around incorporation of the city. Is this city going to incorporate and become a city or stay unincorporated? And these two factions going back and forth. And one of the big fears that was promoted amongst the anti-incorporation group was that that would open the door to selling homes to colored people. We also see in a 1962 Chamber of Commerce publication, Facts About Broomfield, they kind of trumpet the fact that Broomfield is 100% native white. And so we know from our documentation that there really was not much diversity at all in Broomfield.
I'm a very big believer in if you bring in the business, people will come. And so I think, you know, Broomfield is a great place to start accepting black businesses, different cultural events. Set up shop here in Broomfield and let folks know, hey, we're here, we want to learn, we want to grow together. But I think if you invite in black businesses, black community, black culture, not even just black culture, just all community, all culture, that'll really begin to mend those racial wounds, and that'll begin to really bring the diversity that's much needed here.
Some of the ways that Broomfield is working and community groups in Broomfield are working toward anti-racism and diversity is one thing the city is doing, which is great, is the new Diversity, Equity, Access, and Inclusion initiative that is part of the city's official efforts. There's some great people involved with that team, and they're doing some great work. So I see that as a sign of progress. I think in Broomfield, one thing that I think of as a milestone is the Solidarity Walk that happened last June. So it was June 8th, 2020, that happened after George Floyd's death, and included a lot of people from all over Broomfield to march in solidarity with people of color who have been mistreated and have been victims of police brutality. While Broomfield is a primarily white community, about 80% of our population during the last census is white. We do have 20% of our population that is non-white. So that's 1 out of 5 coming from 0 out of 5 several generations ago. And I see that as a positive sign that our community is becoming more diverse. I think that makes us stronger, and I think that makes our community more vibrant, and I think it makes our community a better community.